Coming to you from West Central Illinois, this is the Adapting the Outdoors podcast with your host, Nathan Lamberson. Join us this week for the inspirational stories of people not letting their disabilities get in the way of enjoying the pleasures of hunting and fishing in the great outdoors. Now, here's your host, Nathan Lamberson.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Adapting the Outdoors. I am your host, Nathan Lamberson. On this week's show, I have a couple from Wyoming, Illinois. They run a place called Cozzi Ranch, and I will let them tell you all about it.
So, Cozzi Ranch sits on 200 acres of strip mine, right behind our residence. We have 6 fishable bodies of water. Pretty much you name the species, we have it. We do pasture some cattle in the summer, and they are gone throughout the fall and winter. And the mission of Cozzi Ranch is stated on our logo. It's a place where youth and the DD community can fish, hunt, and explore. That's our main goal. To go back into a little bit of history, I've been at my current residence now for 23 years. Howsomever, I have known the property that is now Cozzi Ranch since I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Wow.
It's always been basically what it is now, reclaimed strip mine ground. It was last mined approximately in the mid to late 60s. That's when the coal mining was shut down and all the property was reclaimed. And then it was turned into cattle pasture. Quite a bit of the timber still left on it on various parts of the property. The history of the ground is, with myself and a lot of the locals, not to date myself, but I started coming to the property in approximately 73, 74, from 8 miles away with friends of my older sisters. One of the young men that my sisters knew, his father ran the cattle on the place. So, I became familiar with the property when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. And then in the coming years, under the same owner, some high school friends and myself, we were allowed to ride horses. They were still working cattle out here with horses. So my friend was cousins with the people that ran the cattle. So it wasn't uncommon for us to come out, saddle up 4, 5, 6 horses, and ride all over almost a square mile of property. Fast forward into, I'm thinking 89, 90, 91, after I got out of the service, the previous owners, the Grant King Land and Cattle Company, that's who was the original owners. They pretty much left the fishing open to the locals with what we call common sense rules. You parked by the gate, but you didn't block the gate. Any trash that went in came back out. If you did take home some fish, you only took home enough for a meal. Don't cross the fence, because that sags the fence and causes them troubles and issues. They just have to repair the fence. But the biggest thing was common sense rules, treat it as if it's your own property, carry out your trash, and be kind, don't abuse it. The property changed hands. I can't tell you exactly what year it was. And the Dienst family bought the property. And again, it was pretty much the same story. They ran cattle on it. The locals could still fish here. Just mind your P's and Q's. Common sense, what we call country rules, I guess.
It's really unfortunate because those quote-unquote rules, don't really
even
exist anymore.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. It's harder and harder. You know, I've been an outdoorsman and a fisherman my entire life. When I was a kid, you could go up to almost any farmer's house. I could walk out my back door, go hunting and fishing, and never have an issue. And you know, it's just, we all know that's just not the way it is these days.
No.
But the two previous owners leaving it open to the public for the most part, you know, I brought my daughters here fishing when they were young. And then when I bought this piece of property, which is right next to it, you know, we hunted geese out there, and I was allowed to go fishing out there. Again, common sense rules. So when the conception of Cozzi Ranch came about between Michelle and I, that was kind of the idea. We could help the local youth, and with her experience with the DD community, have a place to get out and have something a little different, have something nice other than state-owned ground and, you know, joining a club or a campground to go fishing. That was the basics of our idea.
For the listeners that don't know, what do you mean when you say the DD community?
The developmentally disabled. So the acronym would be DD. So anybody with a disability, a developmental disability or delayed or, you know, autism, anything that falls under that umbrella of being disabled, so to speak.
Okay.
Which, I mean, how Cozzi Ranch came to was, you know, Andy told you the story about, you know, the property behind the house and, you know, going through so many different owners, and it had come available, in 2017?
Yeah.
2017. And Andy had said, you know, how about if we approach the owner and, you know, try and get this land, because it was, what's the word I'm looking for? It was, a lot of people wanted it. A lot of people wanted the land. And so Andy had set up a meeting with the owner of the property and basically told him what we wanted to do with it. And they were all for it. So 2018, I think around 2018 was when we actually took ownership of it and then opened it up to what Cozzi Ranch is today. It has a lot to do with, I had a son that had, you know, developmental disabilities, intellectual disability, autism. He was born with it, and, you know, it was rough for him. But I did lose him in 2016. And that was the hardest thing a parent, you know, ever wants to deal with, you know. So for me and Andy, you know, Cozzi Ranch is something that, you know, my son would have absolutely enjoyed. You know, the outdoors. He was such an outdoors kid. Loved horses, you know, any kind of animal that you could possibly imagine, you know. And so my son is the reason for Cozzi Ranch.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting the, you know, the people with disabilities out and to enjoy the simplicities of the things that Andy and I, you know, we enjoy. We want them to enjoy that as well. So, and it's working. So he was 22 when he passed away. So, and that was 8 years ago, 8 years this year, in July. So yeah, he was 22. And that's our non-for-profit. It's Jamie's Crew 22. And we do business as Cozzi Ranch. So, he was fond of trains. So we, the crew is everybody. So we came up with Jamie's Crew 22 because of his age, when he passed away. But we do business as Cozzi Ranch under that non-for-profit.
We are registered 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
We run strictly off of donations, volunteers, and to be very honest, a fair amount out of our own pockets. We have a lot of great people in the community, a lot of great groups that support us also. We can never thank them enough for the support that we get. And, the payment we get is, it may seem small to some people, but the payment we get is just watching these kids have a blast. And when the DD community typically, and that's Michelle's line of work. Michelle's line of work is with the DD community. And so we bring in small groups of the DD community, and we bring them right up to what we call Jamie's Pond. It's a specialty pond. We designed it with kids and the DD community specifically in mind. We filled it full of hybrid bluegills. I don't know if you've ever fished for hybrid bluegills, but they grow fast, they fight hard, and they are a very aggressive biting fish, so they're super easy to catch. They're fun. Fantastic.
They're a fun fish to catch.
We'll have to try to get you some pictures of some of the hybrids we have here. They're super impressive. But, we can bring the bus right up to Jamie's Pond. If there is a wheelchair involved, we can put the ramp down on the concrete pad, which was also donated. The materials were donated. The labor was donated. And so, not a dime of that came out of our pockets. But we can put the wheelchair ramp right down on the concrete pad, put the individual right at water's edge, put a fishing pole in their hand, and get them to fishing within 5 to 10 minutes. It's just, you have to see it in action to really appreciate it. A lot of people think a pond and a concrete pad is nothing special. But for the DD community, especially those that, let's say they live in a cellar home, getting something different in their daily lives can mean the world to them. And you see it when they're here fishing. We've had a lot of people comment, when they're here for a trip and they're volunteering, and volunteering for this, I constantly say, is super easy. It's putting a worm on a hook. It's taking a fish off of a hook, and possibly, if the individuals aren't 100% capable, assisting them in casting. So that, and it's one fish right after the other. But it is a blast. And we frequently have groups, youth groups that, we have youth groups, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H, that, they choose to fish Jamie's Pond because it's instantaneous gratification. You're catching fish right off the bat. I could go on and on about Jamie's Pond, but it was really nothing more than a ditch with a little bit of water in it, surrounded by brush when we bought the property. So we had a small vision with this little ditch, and with a little bit of earth moving and some chainsaw work and a little bit of sweat. And I also have to give a shout out to the Herman Brothers Pond Management out of Peoria and Austin Bennett, as always. If it wasn't for the Herman Brothers, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are today.
With the fish, yeah.
Yeah.
With our fishery.
I'm constantly in contact with them, consulting them. They're just a fantastic group of guys.
And
So,
I was talking to Brad Guidi from Camp Big Sky.
Yeah, Brad. Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We just actually just met up with him or connected with him like in December. He had heard about us. And with me working for the company that I do, our individuals actually go to Camp Big Sky, during the times that they opened. And anyway, so he had reached out to us back in December, I think.
December.
Yeah, he came to our fundraiser, and he's got 25 years on us. We're only in our,
I believe this is
our fifth or sixth year.
year. Yeah.
So he's got 20 years on us, or 25 years on us, and it's just he had said, with him looking at our pictures, and he says, I was there. We were there once.
Yeah.
So he's just been a big help to us, a lot of resource, giving us hints and, things how we can get grants, because we're very small,
Yeah.
I don't think we've even tapped into what we can do here on the ranch. So Brad has been wonderful with giving us the information, and what made him successful at Camp Big Sky.
Yeah.
So we're working on it.
We constantly, we tell everybody that being a 501c is new to us. We learn something almost every day, every week. We learn something new, a new process, something new that we can do, another project, a possible grant, another way to raise money. And for Brad to reach out to us and offer us his experience, his knowledge, his expertise, that's a testament to his dedication to what he's doing. And he does it very, very well. And he communicates what we need to do to us in a very easygoing, very understandable manner. And, it means a lot to us. We fully admit that we are learning. There's a huge learning curve to doing this. We never say that we're doing all we can. There's always something more we can do. We realize that, but we also realize that it's Michelle and I, and we both work 40 hours a week and sometimes a drop more. And then we come home and we have to, we have our lives, our home, our lawn to take care of. And then we go out on the ranch and work, and we book events and we assist with events. So it is a handful. I don't know if people realize the amount of labor it takes, to just for the upkeep on a property like this. It's almost a full-time job.
How many lakes are on the property?
For as long as we've had it, I've always got to stop and count, which is crazy.
There's 8.
There's 8, and there's some smaller ponds that we call them non-viable. They're not deep enough to support good fish, but they're good enough for the wildlife, for the turtles, for the ducks, for the geese. So for right now, we haven't messed with them.
So we have eight ponds.
Yeah.
6 of them are fishing. The fish are viable.
Yeah, we call them viable fishing ponds.
Yeah. The biggest one is our big lake, which is 15 acres.
15 acres. The lake behind the house is 6, and then they range anywhere from an acre to about 2.5.
How deep do these lakes run?
So the big lake, which is a very long, narrow lake with super steep banks, Its average depth down through the middle is probably 14. The deepest spots will be 17, 18. Almost everything else, most of them will average the same. The pond behind the house here is a shallow pond. You got to realize now these ponds they were basically born in 1970. They're 50 years old already. And although farming practices have changed, there was still a lot of erosion and such going on in the 70s. So a couple of these ponds have built up with sediment, as is the case with the pond behind the house. But it still holds good fish. We've had 7, 8, 9 pound channels come out of there. Some really nice crappie. We've had 1 pound bluegills pulled out of there. Bass anywhere from 3 to 6 pounds out of the lake behind the house. And that's fairly common. We're still working on some of the ponds. A lot of it is biology and management. And you don't do this stuff overnight. It's going to be a constant work in progress. You either manage it and try to improve it, or you kill it off and start over. And for right now, we are trying to manage it and improve it.
Are you guys primarily bank fishing, or do you allow boat fishing as well?
So right now, we don't allow boats, but only on special occasions. Not last year, the year before, we did have a kayak bass tournament, and we used that as a fundraiser for the ranch. We are mostly bank fishing. What we constantly try to promote is, especially for the youth and the families, let's get the kids out, get a little fresh air, and get a little bit of exercise. Most any place you go fishing here, to actually be on the water fishing, the average walk is going to be about 100 yards. You can walk farther if you want to go exploring, but we have good fish within 100 to 200 yards of any gate.
Primarily fishing, or do you allow hunting as well? It sounds like you guys are primarily fishing.
So we do. Yes, we are. We're primarily guided towards the fishing. Howsoever, in the fall, we try to host 3 youth slug deer hunters during youth slug season. I think we've done that almost every year since we took possession. And then typically in the spring, we try to host at least 2, if not 3 youth turkey hunts. And the reason we keep the numbers down, number 1 is safety. Number 2, especially on the turkey, it's a tough hunt on the ranch. The turkey population can vary, and to have a successful hunt, you have to be in a certain area, and we only have so many areas. But we have had a successful youth turkey hunter, and I think almost all of our youth slug hunters have been successful and
deer
on the deer. Yeah, they've almost all been successful. And along with that, when we start talking about the DD community or handicapped hunting, we realize there's a lot more we can do. But it boils down to time, money, labor. This year we're going to be installing one of our first handicapped accessible deer blinds, and again that was all donated.
Fantastic.
When you talk about disabled, we realize there's so much we can do, and we do need to concentrate on that more. Again, time, money, and labor. We try to set some small goals, or at least one large goal for the year, and try to get that done just for that year. Again, I constantly use the phrase one bite at a time. We can only do so much, but, as we grow, as we expand, I think it will come a lot easier and a lot faster.
We only have one fundraiser a year.
So what we try to do is, when you do want to come fishing, what we do is we have a process. So let's say Michelle wants to bring her kids fishing. Your average person. If you've never been here, what we ask that you do is you come as a parent the first time by yourself, no kids, especially the parent that's going to bring the kids fishing. You get a tour of the property, so you have at least a basic idea of where things are and how to get there. You get a permission slip for that year for the fishing season, and you get a rules sheet, and you sign a waiver of liability, release of liability. And then when you do want to go fishing, we ask that you plan your day because we want everybody to have a nice day. Part of the reason you go fishing is for a little peace and quiet and relaxation. So we want you to have a nice day. Plan your day. Shoot me a text. Give me a call and say, hey, can we go fishing Saturday morning? Can we go fishing Sunday night? Whatever. 95% of the time, we always say yes. The only time we ever say no is if there's a group or a family that has the ranch for the day. If 4-H is here, we like them to have the place for the day if they're going to be here all day. But typically, everybody is really good about telling me or asking, hey, can we go Saturday morning? We'll be out of there by noon. Can we go Saturday evening? Our rule is you have to be out by dark. There's no fishing after dark. But so it's pretty easy to schedule a fishing trip. And typically everybody that does come fishing, they're really easy going. I don't think a lot of people would even mind sharing a lake with somebody. But when I go fishing, I go for a little piece of quiet relaxation. That's kind of the way we like to do things. But show up at the ranch, fish for a day, fish for a morning, fish for an afternoon or an evening. We are literally 3 miles from town, and Wyoming is a small town of 1,500. And we've got 4 really good places to eat. And we have the best ice cream in the state, the whip ice cream. We always tell everybody, and I always kind of joke with the kids, the rule is after you go fishing, you have to get an ice cream. So they're right on the road.
Go get some after this.
Yeah. They're right on the road coming out to the ranch. So they're easy to find. Great family run business. We also have 111 Tacos in town, a brand new Mexican restaurant. They are fantastic. And Curry's, carry out pizza, another family business. I'm a little bit of a foodie, so I'm going to push the food in town. But and then the Spoon River Bowl, we have a bowling alley. Yeah, we have a bowling alley that also serves some really good food. So there's a lot of fantastic places to stop in Wyoming after you're done. And we always try to, the local businesses support us. We're going to support them. We're going to push them too. So everybody, I think I got all my plugs in now.
Let's say, God forbid, something does happen. What's the emergency plan of action?
Well, so I'll give you the same speech that I give all the groups that come around. We have 5 rules on the ranch as a group. The first 3 are safety, safety, and safety. Always be aware of who's around you. Be careful when you're casting. That you do have a sharp metal object on the end of a whip, basically. So we all want to be careful. The last 2 rules are catch fish and have fun. That being said, I do know, we are a strip mine. There is timber. We have locust trees with thorns. We have hornets. We have snakes. We have rocks. We have muskrat holes. There are hazards on the ranch. We just ask that everybody obviously be aware when they're here. But God forbid there is an emergency. We have the Stark County ambulance is
3 miles?
3 miles from our gate.
And they have us pinned.
And they have our gate pinned as a location. And we try to communicate that to all the groups that come in. We also have a fantastic volunteer fire crew out here. and they have the equipment to get to a person if they are out in the more rough area of the property. And of course, Michelle and I don't go a lot of places. We love being on the ranch. We're out there almost every night.
Except when we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. But we're out there almost every night that the weather is decent. We love to go watch. We run 4 automatic fish feeders, and to help grow your fish bigger and faster and help the populations. And we absolutely love to go sit and watch the fish feeders go off. We call it our relaxing time, our downtime. I call it my blood pressure medicine. But it's also a way to kind of keep track of what's going on within the lake, how big the fish are. I'm not against throwing out a bobber and a worm right next to the fisher to see how things are doing, right next to a feeder, and see how things are doing. We love this as much as anybody. And that's a big part of the reason we're doing it. We want to transfer that passion to others. So, we do all we can.
Do you guys have any specialty equipment that helps wheelchair users get around the ranch?
Not yet. So as far as wheelchair users, the only thing we have that can assist you in getting around the ranch is we have good travel ways. If someone needs to be in their vehicle to get to a pond, as long as they work with this and arrange it, we can get you to a pond to be fishing. That's why we kind of put together Jamie's Pond with the concrete pads. It's easy to get to. You can drive right up to it. We have a lot of goals coming up in the very near future. But again, it's going to take money and labor and just a little time to get these things done. We would love nothing more than to have much more accessibility. We were contacted by a gentleman that works with the NWTF. Forgive me, I don't have his name handy right off the bat, but they want to do some handicapped turkey hunts out here. We're all for it. We can get you into a turkey hunting area fairly easy, and he uses the track chairs. We haven't had time to look into the track chairs, but they make the track chairs accessible to them during these disabled hunts. So I'm sure that's something we can look into also. We're installing a dock this summer.
Hopefully a pontoon.
Yep, and hopefully in the near future we'd like to get a decent pontoon boat going so that we can transfer the wheelchairs from the dock onto the pontoon and go out on the big lake and have little fishing trips on the big lake, because it's a very nice spot to be fishing also. It's just a really nice lake and very scenic down in there.
If anyone would like to get in contact with you guys, how do they do that?
So the best way right now is Facebook or Facebook Messenger. You can also go online and look up Jamie's Crew. All of our phone numbers and emails are on there. Your main contact will be Michelle first off. Typically, if you want to communicate with me, send me a message. I'll get you my phone number. I'm more than happy to chat on the phone most any evening or weekend.
Yeah. So the website for Jamie's Crew is www.jamiescrew22.org. That's the website. But basically, we do most of our stuff through Facebook and Facebook Messenger, and people, and that's at Cozzi Ranch.
Yeah.
They can follow us on Facebook that way, and then message us through Cozzi Ranch.
Well, I thank you guys for joining me. Do you have any questions for me?
When are you coming to visit?
Yep.
I'm dealing with some medical issues right now, but maybe sometime this summer.
That would be wonderful.
We will hold you to it, Nathan. We would love to have you here and have a visit. You have my phone number, obviously. Feel free to give me a call.
Yes, sir.
Follow us on Facebook. If you need anything, holler. we do want to get you up here, and I want to show you what a 1.25 pound or 1.5 pound hybrid bluegill looks like.
All right. Well, like I said, I thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Been my pleasure.
Well, that was Andy and Michelle Cozzi from Cozzi Ranch. Thank you all for joining me this week. And until next time, thanks for listening to the Adapting the Outdoors podcast.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Adapting the Outdoors podcast. If you would like to have your questions answered on the podcast, email Nathan at adaptingtheoutdoors@gmail.com. Catch the weekly podcast episodes on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Join us next week as we share another inspirational story right here on the Adapting the Outdoors podcast.